marks a year since supporters of former United States President Donald Trump caused a riot and stormed the U.S. Capitol. The attack was to prevent the transfer of power from Trump to the current President Joe Biden. The Justice Department has confirmed that more than 720 people have been charged with disorderly conduct and assaulting police officers, among others. Of those, about 165 have pleaded guilty and at least 70 have been sentenced. In the past few minutes, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has said in a speech at the Capitol, if we are not vigilant, if we do not defend it, meaning democracy, democracy will not stand. And the violent assault that took place here reflects the fragility of our democracy. At this time last year, we spoke to a South African living in the United States to get his view on the storming of Capitol Hill. Well, let's speak now to Brett Price again to find out if he has experienced anything different in the past year. Brett, good to have you with us here on the Daytime Update. For many, this anniversary of the attack brings, of course, a whole lot of pain and memories. But does the fallout still continue to be felt?
Yeah, I think so. We've got the January 6th House Select Committee that has been investigating this sort of riot or insurrection for the last 6+ months, and they have subpoenaed a number of former officials relating to the investigation to try and uncover who kind of knew what and when and what was done to kind of prevent this or not prevent this, to enable it, to allow it, to plan it, and so on. And these subpoenas have ranged from, news personalities on channels like Fox News who have had direct lines with former President Trump to, elected officials within the GOP. Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff for President Trump at the time. And there's a lot of information that's come out since then that has shown, a lot of folks anticipated that this might happen. They reached out and tried to get President Trump to, kind of lower the temperature and prevent this from happening. And he chose to do nothing. And so there continues to be fallout. There's all kinds of phone records that are being subpoenaed at the moment, and there are various battles in the legal system to try and either prevent or get those records released. But certainly over the next year, that committee looks to release all of its findings to the public, and hopefully at some point, the intent of the committee is to be able to draft legislation that will help to prevent something like this happening in the future once they've understood why it happened in the first place.
Yeah, for Americans, of course, it was deeply personal. For us, looking at it from the outside, we looked at it as some sort of a political crisis. Does those deep divisions still exist politically in the U.S. today?
Yeah, the divisions within this country, I think, are hotter than they've been. President Joe Biden sort of pledged to seek unity within the country, and I think that he's tried to do that. But it's not up to one person alone to decide whether a country's unified. The divisions remain. You've still got members of the GOP, elected officials who claim that day was nothing more than a tourist visit, and that this whole thing is being overblown. At the same time, you've got the Democrats who impeached the former president over his role in this day 1 year ago. The divisions remain. The temperature is far too high. There's very little dialogue or debate on actual issues, and primarily it just seems to be a whole lot of mudslinging from one side to the other and back again.
Yeah. How would you describe the level of anxiety, I suppose, at this particular point from people who, do people think that something like that could happen again? And if you listen to that speech by Kamala Harris, certainly says if we're not vigilant, if we don't guard our democracy, something of that nature could repeat itself.
Yeah, I just listened to Vice President Harris's speech moments ago in the Capitol, and I think after having seen what we saw last year, it would be silly to say that it would just never happen again. We know that it's possible and can happen. So I think it's necessary to be vigilant, and I think it's necessary to get as much information as we can into the public domains that folks can understand what the facts are and were, and that we can avoid something like this happening again. I will say that there are, high security in the capital today is heightened, and there are various steps being taken to try and prevent this from happening again. But I do think it requires tangible engagement from our elected leaders on both sides of the aisle, as well as security forces and intelligence communities working together.
Brett, appreciate your time, and thank you very much for joining us. That's Brett Price there, once again, giving us an update. This is a year on since that attack on Capitol Hill. Meanwhile,